We're nearly at the finish line. We've decided the UX, created our wireframe, designed our interface and even our icon. Now, we just have to get it all into a format that developers will love us for. As I said earlier, developers use PNG files to construct your artwork. This means making their job as easy as possible for them. Of course, you could go one step further and construct your UI as an Xcode storyboard, but that, again, is a whole other lesson. For the most part, developers are happy as long as your files are neatly and intuitively organized. This means labeling and documenting as much as you can, as well as pulling sections out of the UI itself, such as anything that's particularly text-heavy, in order to make their job a little easier. This is a project I was working on last year. It shows news in a similar way to our app, and it was necessary for me to give every pixel value to the developers, as some sections of the app were being pulled in via the web, which meant the CSS values needed to match exactly with the native Xcode values. Having extensive documentation to hand was key in making this a seamless transition in the app itself. So in this particular project, we had two sets of teams working, actually three sets of teams if you include myself. I was off-site as the lead designer. We had a web team that were on-site, and we had an development team, so an Objective-C Cocoa developers, which is the native development code for iOS. We had them off-site. So producing a document like this meant that some of the news that was pulled in was sometimes a web view rather than actually being coded in native Objective-C and Cocoa. It meant that we had a mixture within the app. So producing a document like this meant that we could hand this over to the web team, who would use exactly the same values as the dev team for iOS. So where you see headlines being set at 44 pixels and narration text at 30 pixels, it meant that instead of two teams breaking apart one design and having to look into what the pixel values of everything was, and also you'll find that sometimes developers guess the different heights between stuff, they would actually just be what's called eyeballing it, which is where they actually just think that they're seeing the right values in stuff. It took all the guesswork out of it for everyone. So producing a document like this where everything was clearly defined, it meant CSS values could easily be input that matched exactly the output of the native code for Objective-C and Cocoa developers who were off-site. So it just meant that having one document brought the whole project together very easily, so everyone was on the same page.